Welcome to Coruzant Technologies, home of the Digital Executive Podcast. Do you work in emerging tech, working on something innovative, maybe an entrepreneur? Apply to be a guest at www.coruzant.com/brand. Welcome to the Digital Executive. Today's guest is Kevin Ray. Kevin Ray is a 25-year veteran of the consumer electronics and gaming industry, has developed hit games generating billions in revenue, and currently serves as the Chief Technology Officer and co-founder of Nommo Smart Care, where he leads product development and technology strategy. Throughout his career, he has helped bring innovative digital entertainment products to market, combining deep technical expertise with strong business leadership. He previously held leadership roles at Majesco Entertainment, Mattel Interactive, Hasbro, co-founding Games.com, and Microprose, contributing to major milestones across the interactive entertainment landscape. Well, good afternoon, Kevin. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for so much for having me. Really excited to be here.
Absolutely, my friend. I appreciate it. And making time zones and calendars connecting is sometimes challenging. I know you're in the Bay Area of Northern California. I'm in Kansas City. So again, appreciate the time zone shift. And Kevin, if you don't mind, I'm jumping into your first question here. You've spent 25 years in consumer electronics and gaming, helping develop products that generated billions in revenue. What key experiences shaped your journey to becoming Chief Technology Officer and co-founder of Nommo Smart Care?
That is true. I spent 25 years building consumer electronics, video games, and usually the first thing people ask me is exactly that. How did you end up in healthcare? Well, the answer is there's almost everything to do with both. There's three real direct parallels that I can think of in the video game business that really led to how we've built Nommo Smart Care. First is security. Nearly all massive multiplayer games today incorporate digital object sales. Some have fully integrated marketplaces with user-generated content being sold and traded, but also ladders, rankings, and tournaments. And the security requirements for those environments exceed most banking platforms. With the addition of all of the HIPAA-related issues, the violations are quite enormous. And so if you get hacked, you're out of business. Even if it's just your ranking system, your core audience leaves you and you're done. And so at Nomo, we're handling health data for families. And that security-first mindset from gaming was foundational from day one. The second one is for sure infrastructure economics. Most multiplayer games today are what are called free to play. Most players pay nothing, and the revenue comes from just a small percentage of heavy spenders, who we call whales. But whales don't appear until after you've built a massive base of active players. So the challenge is building infrastructure with low enough operating costs so you're not burning through $20 million a month waiting for scale. At Nomo, we solve this by really fully embracing what's called functional programming. We're entirely serverless, and we leverage edge compute where our devices adjudicate events locally. And that gives us scaling costs and speed of scaling that is superb. We, without a doubt, have the lowest operating costs in the industry, which we're then able to pass on to consumers. And then finally, user experience. I guarantee every one of your listeners today has played a game or two, whether it was on Xbox or PlayStation, PC, or their phone. And the one thing I know for sure is that none of them started by sitting down and reading the manual. Even the most complex games walk users into the experience softly and easily. New features are introduced as they explore, and the UI design drives that entire development process. We brought that exact philosophy to Nomo. And it's even more critical for us because unlike in video games where your core audience is 18 to 35-year-old male, for us it's 63-year-old woman. It's usually the caregiver's the oldest daughter. And we have many of our users are in their 80s and older. And we're very proud that this audience has embraced and applauded us for what we've built.
That's awesome. And I really like that backstory. Being in technology and healthcare, predominantly in my career, I saw that that parallel that you laid out here for us, the three parallels between gaming and healthcare. And you topped that off with, or started that off with security, infrastructure, economics, and you talked about how that scale, and there's obviously that price point you can't outspend before you really start making a profit in that world, of course. And then, of course, lastly is the user experience. And that is so important, as we talk about this a lot on the podcast. So thank you. And Kevin, at Nommo Smart Care, you are now focused on connected health and smart care technology. What inspired your transition, again, from gaming and entertainment into this, what we call this healthcare innovation?
Well, like all good ideas, it started over coffee. My friend and co-founder, Mike O'Shaughnessy, a serial entrepreneur, we were in a coffee shop brainstorming new product ideas. We came up with a pretty good list. We had some real winners in there, but the conversation shifted towards family. Mike and I were both putting in a lot of miles traveling around the world, dealing with supply chain issues on every different time zone around the world. And as common with guys our age, we'd had issues with aging parents. Mike had shared really details of recently losing both his mom and his dad. His mom went out to the barn to put away her horses, noticed the light was out. She climbed up a ladder to change the bulb, something she'd done many times before. And this time she took a hard fall. She knocked herself out. She lay on the driveway all night because nobody knew she was outside. And the next day, a mailman found her. And by then it was too late. She never fully recovered. Mike's dad was on the couch watching a football game and he suffered a stroke. He knew what was happening. He tried to call for help, but he couldn't. And hours later, his brother came to check on him and had to break down the door to get inside to see what was going on. And by then it was too late. His father never recovered either. Coincidentally, I'd just been through something similar. My mother-in-law broke her hip. She successfully had hip replacement surgery. But when she came home, we did what most families do. We set up a TV in her bedroom. We gave her a bell. We said, Mom, if you need anything at all, you just ring that bell. We'll come running. We'll get you whatever you need. Well, that's exactly what you should not do. You should take the TV out of her room. You should take the bell out of her room. You should take the magazines and books. And you tell her if she needs anything, she should get up and walk. Nearly all the poor outcomes from hip replacement surgery come from not mobilizing that joint. And unfortunately, she developed necrotic tissue around that new joint and eventually sepsis, which killed her. And Mike looked at me after we went through this and he said, Kev, why isn't there some device that we can just buy and plug in that answers the simple question, how's mom? And I don't want to sell fear. I want to sell love. I want to sell caring. And that was it. That was the birth of Nomo. And this has been a passion project for our entire team. Most of us are older senior engineers and designers, and we're also customers. We use our own product to keep an eye on our own parents. There's no other product like it.
Thank you. Really appreciate that. Love, again, the backstory. Again, it's a bunch of engineers getting around a table at a coffee shop. Nothing like it when you're brainstorming all kinds of cool solutions. But you really found a solution or a gap in the market. And you highlighted that by telling these stories of our elderly parents that, again, whether it was a health challenge or just the mobility that they don't have like they used to have when they were younger. And of course, in the end, causes their demise. So I like what you're doing, developing something for adults that can really, elderly adults that can really use the help. So thank you. And Kevin, you've spent years mentoring entrepreneurs at Stanford and UC Berkeley. What are the most common mistakes you see early stage founders make when building and scaling technology products?
Indeed. I've been a perennial mentor in Steve Blank's Lean Launchpad class at both Stanford and Berkeley School of Engineering and Haas Business School. The most common challenge with my teams and really with every startup is what we call the right side of the canvas. Most of your listeners are probably familiar with the business model canvas developed by Alexander Osterwalder, a single page canvas with 9 building blocks that lets you describe a new business. The right side is the part that deals with value propositions and product market fit. And that's the hardest part. Who's your customer and what's the problem of theirs that you're going to fix? I had a team once, very, very smart guys, all finishing their PhDs in electrical engineering so that they could then go finish their medical degrees. These are really smart guys. They developed this product that used near infrared light to peer through the skull and measure blood flow in the brain. Something called near infrared spectroscopy. It's to really deliver a poor man's version of functional MRI. And they had built this tiny battery operated flexible device that they were able to sew into a knit baby cap. And it could alert the mother 15 minutes before the baby woke up. And when the baby cried, it accurately told them exactly why. Whether the baby hungry or tired, needed a diaper change, or just wanted to play. Tons of tests. It worked perfectly. It was awesome. Then they tried to validate it with actual customers. And they spoke to scores of new parents. And every single parent said, no way. Not 70%, not 80%. 100% of the new parents they talked to said, no way. The dads all said, wait, you want to put something electrical on my baby's head? Get out of here. And the moms, they all said, you're going to tell me why my baby is crying? I know why my baby is crying. And my team was crushed. And they are having such a tough time dealing with this. And I told them, guys, this is great. Congratulations. In 12 weeks, you built prototypes. You've tested your hypothesis. You've invalidated some of your key premises. You've learned that there was no product market fit. Most people spend years and millions of dollars to learn that. And now you can pivot and try again. Good ideas are a dime a dozen. Or as Mark Cuban says, good ideas are as valuable as sand. The real challenge is finding a good problem and then a solution, and then it's all about execution. With Nomo, every single feature started with one question. What problem are we trying to fix? The product is simple, plug and play, passively monitors movement in a home to determine activities of daily living. We developed AI that measures what's normal, like whether mom gets up at 4 a.m. or sleeps until noon. We're all different. What matters is recognizing when something isn't normal and when it doesn't happen at all, like dad didn't eat today, or mom didn't take her meds, or is sleeping way more than usual. Nomo is the only product that really answers that at a glance, and that is problem first thinking.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I love the stories that you come out here. Of course, everybody loves a good story, but you talked about your time mentoring at Stanford, UC Berkeley, and the example, and I think you call it near infrared neuroscopy or something like that. I apologize. But the point being is I was impressed. I was excited to hear and then find out there was really not a need in the market, or you couldn't convince parents that they needed this particular tool. But the thing I took away, obviously, is you were excited. You encouraged them. They said, gosh, it only took 12 weeks to get to that failure versus years. And I think that's so important. And entrepreneurs sometimes don't understand that. And you really highlighted that point. But at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is what problem we're trying to fix at Nomo. And that's exactly what you're focused on. So I appreciate that. And Kevin, as we look ahead to the future, how do you see the convergence of gaming, consumer electronics, and healthcare shaping the future of connected devices and smart care solutions?
Yeah, well, we follow a tradition I call happy surprises. One of the games I was involved with for years was Cookin' Mama on Nintendo. And the creator was adamant that the users receive free and frequent new content, even the smallest little thing, and then it would give them a moment of joy, like as small as a flower blooming in the background or a blue jay flying into the room where mama was cooking. Later, Xiaomi, the Chinese superstore of consumer electronics, mimicked this same approach. They update their devices every Friday with a free feature update. It became so popular that the Chinese government grew concerned when a government statistician pointed out to someone that national productivity dipped on Friday afternoons as millions of workers stopped what they were doing to check their phones for their free update. We embrace that philosophy at Nomo. We roll out updates to our product every 2 weeks. We constantly measure app performance, remove points of friction, and that discipline of delighting your customers continuously is what separates products that get used from products that get forgotten. The home is becoming the primary point of care. 90% of seniors want to age in their own home. Healthcare costs are climbing towards $6 trillion, and the system can't scale by putting more people in facilities. It has to meet people where they live. And the companies that will win are the ones bringing consumer grade experience to healthcare grade problems. We built our infrastructure to gaming scale, designed for millions of users, because connected care is going to be as common as a smart thermostat or a doorbell camera. We're deployed at Walmart, Best Buy, Amazon. We partnered with Elizabeth Dole Foundation. And what started with a simple question in a coffee shop, how's mom, is becoming the answer for millions of families. And we're just getting started.
That's awesome. Really appreciate that. And you shared some examples in whether you call these updates gaming, electronics, whatnot, gamification, but it's again, that little dopamine effect. People obviously were looking forward to that weekly update as that one example you explained about in China. But we all know that home is the place to be. Home is now one of the number one places for health recovery. But what I like what you said about your platform is you're measuring performance, you're removing friction points, you're pushing out updates every 2 weeks, and you're making that customer experience one that can be remembered. And I really appreciate your focus in the healthcare space, especially for our aging adults. And Kevin, it was such a pleasure having you on today, and I look forward to speaking with you real soon.
Brian, thank you so much.
Bye for now.